Closing parenthesis. Stop scrolling, because this is not a love story you've heard before. It begins with fear, silence, and a girl whose first kiss was stolen by terror, and ends with a cowboy who refuses to let her believe love is something that hurts. If you believe slow burn romance, redemption, and emotional twists belong in stories that stay with you long after midnight, hit subscribe now, because stories like this don't just entertain, they change how you feel about love itself. Story script, long narrative, single plain paragraph. Her first kiss had never been gentle, never been wanted, never been something she chose, and because of that she had learned early that affection was something to brace for rather than lean into, something that arrived without permission and left behind a cold echo she could never quite name. So when she came to the plains where the land stretched wide and honest and the sky never pretended to be anything other than what it was, she carried that quiet damage inside her like a stone sewn into her coat, unseen but heavy, and the people in the small frontier town noticed her silence long before they learned her name, noticed the way she flinched when laughter got too close or when a man's shadow crossed her path too suddenly, and among those who noticed was the cowboy who kept to the far edge of town, the one people spoke about in half sentences and respectful pauses. A man shaped by loss and long rides and nights spent listening to the wind instead of voices, and he saw her not as something fragile but as someone unfinished, someone still becoming, and that was why he spoke to her the way he spoke to nervous horses, slow and steady and without demand, letting his presence be something that didn't crowd her, something that stayed even when she expected it to leave, and over time she learned the sound of his boots, the calm weight of his voice, the way he never touched without asking even when the world expected him to take, and still when the closeness deepened and the air between them grew warm with things unspoken, fear rose in her chest like an old warning, because memory has a way of disguising itself as instinct, and the night it finally happened, the moment that should have been simple, her body betrayed her before her mind could catch up, her breath caught, her hands trembled, and she pulled away as if burned, and the shame of it was worse than the fear, because she wanted him, wanted the gentleness she felt in his presence, wanted the safety she didn't yet believe she deserved, and she expected disappointment, expected withdrawal, expected the same sharp impatience she had known before, but instead he stepped back, gave her space, and said nothing until she could breathe again, and only then did he speak, low and steady, telling her she didn't owe him anything, that nothing taken in fear could ever be called love, and the truth of that cracked something open inside her, because no one had ever said that before, and she found herself confessing without meaning to, words spilling out about a kiss that had been forced, about how it had rewritten something inside her so that closeness felt like danger, and he listened without interruption, without anger, without that false heroism that demands gratitude, and when she finally fell silent, he said the words that would follow her for the rest of her life, words spoken not as a promise but as an offering. If you ever want to know what a true kiss feels like, he said, let me teach you, but only if you choose it, and there was no hunger in his voice, only patience, and that patience became the ground on which she learned to stand again, days passing into weeks where nothing happened except trust slowly replacing dread, where he showed her affection in 1,000 quiet ways, bringing her coffee before dawn, walking beside her without touching, standing between her and raised voices without making a show of it. And when she finally realized she was no longer afraid of being close to him, the realization frightened her more than anything else, because hope is always the greater risk, and the twist she never expected came when the town itself turned against them, when old rumors surfaced about her past and assumptions were made, when the same people who had pitied her began to judge her, and she prepared herself to be abandoned again, but he didn't leave, didn't defend her with fists or fury. Instead he stood beside her publicly, quietly, choosing her without spectacle, and that choice healed something deeper than romance ever could, and it was only after that, after she knew she was safe even when she was imperfect, that she went to him one evening as the sun fell red against the hills and told him she was ready, not because fear was gone, but because trust was stronger, and when he kissed her it was nothing like the memory that had haunted her. It was slow, unhurried, something she could step into rather than endure. And in that moment she understood that love was not about being brave enough to withstand pain but about being held gently enough that pain loses its voice. And the final twist, the one that changes everything, is that she realized the kiss didn't save her, the choice did, the choice to believe that what happened to her once did not get to decide what happened next, and as she leaned into him under the wide honest sky, she knew this was not the end of her story but the beginning of the one she would tell herself for the rest of her life, a story where fear did not have the final word and love, real love, waited patiently until she was ready to say yes.